There's no argument over the choice between peace and war, but there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second: surrender. Admittedly, there's a risk in any course we follow other than this, but every lesson of history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement, because those voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. If nothing in life is worth dying for, when did this begin? Just in the face of this enemy? The martyrs of history were not fools. And our honored dead, who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis, didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all.
Because those men who fought in World War II and sacrificed so much are our heroes today. They are the ones that made it possible to have freedom in our country and many other countries. If it hadn't been for them and the Germans had won the war, it would have been an entirely different world that we live in. It wouldn't have been a pleasant one. Roland R. Wright was he was in the northern states on a mission in December of 1941. On December 7th, 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. The U.S. was suddenly in a state of war. He was, immediately after completing his mission, he signed up with the U.S. Army and applied for fighter pilot training. Went through all of the training courses and eventually was qualified to fly the P-51 Mustang. In 1944, he was sent over to England to join the fighter squadrons. He was in the 357th Fighter Group. Known fighter groups over there. They had one of the largest number of kills in the war. He went with to escort bombers over Germany was his mission. The P-51 Mustangs were the first aircraft that could escort a bomber all the way to Germany and back, and had enough fuel to do that. And that was really what turned the war around, stopped the Germans' supply lines, made it possible to end the war sooner. The bombers really end the war, but they needed to be escorted. In January of 1945, Roland was escorting bombers over to Germany, and he and his wingman encountered an Me-262 jet fighter. It was a very formidable fighter. It was 100 miles an hour faster than the Mustang, and tried to get into position high above it, hoping that he hadn't seen them. He was following this Me-262 jet. He and his wingman followed it, tried to get in a position to make a diving attack on it so they could pick up speed in a dive. However, the Me-262 had actually seen them and was actually leading them right over a German airfield that was still manned and had anti-aircraft guns. And as soon as they got over the field, the anti-aircraft guns opened up on them. Roland's wingman was shot down and bailed out. And Roland turned at a sharp angle to avoid the anti-aircraft fire, and the Me-262 jet also had turned to the right, and Roland turned, closed on the jet, and shot it down. And Roland received the Distinguished Flying Cross, which I have here. This is Roland's Distinguished Flying Cross that he received for that dogfight. War is a part of our life here on Earth, and as long as we're on the right side, on the righteous side, that it's an acceptable conflict. And he said he never really had any qualms about doing battle and representing his country. So before the war ended, in the later years, Roland had 2 more kills. He shot down 2 BF-109 Messerschmitts. So he had 3 kills during the war. The war ended before he had any others, and he was then part of the occupation force in Germany. He stayed in the military. After that, he retired as a brigadier general. So he had a long and successful career in the military. Served in the U.S. Army Air Forces during the war, during the U.S. Air Force when that was started in 1947, and later in the Utah Air National Guard. He served in 3 different armed forces and had a great career. Being aware of what's happened, of the history of this country and of those who have served the country and fought for it and died for it, and just being aware of the history that we have and the importance of power for peace, to learn more about our history, to come here and to see these artifacts.
You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance. This is the meaning, in the phrase of Barry Goldwater, peace through strength. Winston Churchill said the destiny of man is not measured by material computations. When great forces are on the move in the world, we learn we're spirits, not animals. And he said there's something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness. We will keep in mind and remember that Barry Goldwater has faith in us. He has faith that you and I have the ability and the dignity and the right to make our own decisions and determine our own destiny.